couldn't go live on Instagram. I've been trying to, I said, okay, if I can't go live, then I'll just record the video. That wasn't successful either. Listen, I have to get this message out. So I'm going live here on Next Level Transformation Podcast. I pray that you guys tune into this because I have to release this. I have to release this. I've been up all night um, thinking about this. This has been brought to my attention. Holy Spirit is leading me in a different direction, right? He's guiding me to really discuss and navigate social development. And one of the things that he brought to my attention is when we are in connections with people, whether it's intimacy, whether it's friendships, whether it's partnerships, right? Personally, professionally, and even spiritually, right? If you have some spiritual friends that you connect with, right? We tend to collab or come together with people different from us. And one of the things he wants me to highlight with social development is stability and struggle. You have to understand there is a major difference with stability and struggle, whether, especially in intimate relationships, we pay attention to it. We see it very prominently when it comes to when you're dating somebody or you're in a relationship with somebody or even engaged and possibly married, right? The individual, the person that came from stability shows up way different in the relationship than a person who came from struggle. And we have a tendency of lacking understanding when it comes to that. This is one of the major things. If you heard, you know what I mean? If you heard when he talk about not being equally yoked in a relationship, that's kind of one of the major things. It's not just spiritually, but it's also economically. It's also environmentally where you can be unequally yoked with somebody that you're in a relationship or connection with, whether it's intimate, whether it's friendships, right? I've also had different friendships from different dynamics where some came from stability and some came from struggle, and it showed up heavily within the connection when we would have conversations or when we would go places or when we would interact with people, right? The difference with being in a relationship, being in a connection, being in a friendship, and you coming from different economical backgrounds, you have to gain a level of compassion and understanding if you really care to engage in this connection, right? A lot of us are missing that. A lot of us is missing wanting to understand who we're with, right? For example, I was in a relationship with somebody that came from struggle. I came from stability. So a lot of things that I expect in a relationship, a lot of things that I wanted in a relationship, they were unable to fulfill for me. Okay. And we get mad at that person for not understanding. We get mad for the other person not understanding what we are wanting, what we are desiring because of the different economical backgrounds that we don't pay attention when we engage with people, whether again, like whether it's intimate, whether it's friendships, right? Hey, whether it doesn't matter, like we don't focus on that. We be looking at the if they cute, you know what I mean, or if they cool to hang with. Hey, if we, if they somebody we could chill with, if they like the same restaurants that we do, but we don't pay attention, right? For let's talk about friendships, right? I noticed in a lot of my friendships where I liked five-star restaurants, and a lot of my friends was cool with the fast food industry, the fast food place. And I, had to kind of think, I was like, it's not that they don't have money, right? It's just they came from struggle. And so they spend their money differently, right? Partnerships, right? Professionally. One of the things that I pay attention to when I collab with different people or if I engage professionally with different projects with people is how they maneuver with different with their business. I pay attention. I focus on people who if they are flashy, right? If they spend a lot, if they just spend money on reckless things, then that tells me they came from struggle. I'm gonna be honest with you because you don't spend when you have money, you don't spend on unnecessary things unless that's just what you always wanted to spend it on. Because when you didn't have, now you want, right? With relationships, it's the same thing. You pay attention to how this person shows up in your connection, how this person shows up in your, partnership, relationship, marriage, whatever. And you pay attention to, if they never wanted to keep a job, right? They're really content with just flip flopping jobs every 30 days and they don't develop roots. That's because they came from struggle, right? It's not always a matter of they're trying to figure themselves out. It's just they are still trying to break what has been instilled. I have definitely been an individual myself. I grew up on stability. I came from stability where longevity is like the birthright, right? My parents stayed at jobs for years on end, uncles, aunts, grandparents, right? But that doesn't mean that I didn't, like, I stayed at a job. When I get a job, I do stay, right? But in entrepreneurship, I'm diving in a different area where it's not common, but I'm still developing roots, right? I understand the concept of developing roots and the importance of it. But a person coming from struggle don't believe in developing roots. They move how they need to move, maneuver how they need to maneuver, shake what they need to shake, figure out what they need to figure out in order to be content, in order to survive, in order to keep their head above water type situation. That reflects within the relationship. And when you find yourself being unequally yoked sometimes with individuals, it's not all about your likes and dislikes. It's also about the foundation that you both came from and then trying to come together to build a foundation together. It don't work, right? This is where compromising be coming into place, and this is where understanding comes into place, and this is where compassion comes into place because we get mad. Speaking from the people coming from stability, right? Coming from being taught to plant roots, being taught to be secure and build a solid foundation. We get mad at people who can't establish stability. We get mad, right? It goes in essence where you come from a home and you come from an environment that's vocal, that expresses, that talks, and then you get in a relationship from with somebody who comes from a family and environment that don't speak, that don't share, that don't engage. How can you guys build a solid foundation together if you're not in an understanding of each other's background and understanding of each other's foundation to build something stronger together, right? I have to be honest, this is the reason why so many marriages are failing. This is the reason why so many connections are not remaining stable because of the simple fact you can want to be with somebody so bad, but you are failing to understand that they have a lot of healing to do from their foundation. Because when you come from struggle, you have to heal from that. That's something that you have to heal. When you come from stability, you have to gain compassion. We're missing that. People from stability is expecting other people to understand what having stability means. It's not just about having consistency in an income, right? It's developing roots. It's developing security, right? People who come from struggle don't know what security means. They don't stay stable anywhere to understand what security means. They don't stay stable anywhere to understand what solid foundation means, right? They move when they need to move. They adjust where they need to adjust. They shake what they need to shake. They figure out what they need to figure out in order to get by for that particular day. Okay. I have encountered a lot of people personally, and Holy Spirit's drawing me because I'm a personal development coach. And so He's drawing me to really focus on social development. A lot of us have to start implementing understanding. We're getting in relationships with people superficial, but we're not diving deep to understand them. And we're not taking the time to understand them, right? We're getting with people, we're engaging with people individually, we're engaging with them personally and professionally, right? Simply for a bag, right? We're doing business deals simply for a check. We're partnering up with people and brands simply for a check, but we're not paying attention to the values. We're not paying attention to the morals. We're not paying attention to their foundation. We're not paying attention to their ethics. Okay, when we're diving in partnerships. One of the things I paid attention to with a lot of brands that I worked with, right? It was interesting because I had one partnership that when I gave my proposal and we started collaborating on a project, I wanted to get more awareness emotionally about this particular CEO, and I wanted to get more vulnerability about why they built the business and why they produced the products that they did. And it was so interesting. The CEO said, I have never been asked in all the partnerships and all the projects that I've done with so many other coaches, I've never been asked about expressing the vulnerability of why I built my business. And I said, that's important because anything that I move, anything that I produce, anything that I collaborate is through purpose. And if you are unable to be vulnerable in why you started your business, or unable to be vulnerable of why you're taking this route in this industry, or if you are unable to have emotional vulnerability about what you're producing, then we have nothing in common. You don't understand what I'm producing if you can't express vulnerability within what you're producing, right? It's important to have some common ground with whoever you partner with. And it's not just about, oh, I like blue. You like blue too? No. Oh, I like going to islands. You like going out? No, that's all superficial stuff. You have to dive deep. Like you have to be in energy or understanding when you partner with people professionally, when you get in intimate relationships with people, get to know them on a deeper level. And this is what Holy Spirit is guiding me when it comes to social development, because we engage with people surfacely, right? And then we get mad at the results. Why? You didn't take the time to get to know them. Because if you would have took the time to get to know them, they probably would have showed you who they were within the first 15 days. I can guarantee you. If you took the time to really get to know people before you really partner with somebody, right? Just because the proposition or just because the proposal looks good and it looks appeasing to the bank account, right? That doesn't mean that they're good for business. You hear the saying, all money ain't good money. Same thing with partnering. Same thing with getting in a relationship. Same with thing friendships, right? Just because we like the same drinks at Starbucks doesn't mean that we can be the bestest friends. That doesn't mean we stand on the same morals and same values. Like that's vital. We have to start being selective of who we engage with, not just intimately, not just platonically, but partnering as well. We have to start being selective. If you are really focusing on personal growth, right? If you are really focusing on developing yourself to your highest potential, who you engage with, who you interact with, who you build connections with is very imperative. And this is what a lot of us is missing. We are diving in our spiritual development, right? We're connecting spiritually, we're aligning spiritually, we're focusing spiritually, yet we are missing that having a spiritual connection takes depth. Okay. It takes depth. So if you are engaging with partners, but you stand on morals and principles and ethics, and this business lacks it, why are you partnering with them? Just because the money look good? Make it make sense. And so that's where it comes to your straddling the fence with your beliefs and your values and your ethics. I am going to be doing more lives pertaining to social development because in order for us to be better, we have to pay attention to who we surround ourselves with. A lot of us are being very loose with our energy, very loose with who we surround, like the company that we keep. And I think the main reason is because I'm surrounded by a lot of couples, right? Even though I'm divorced, I'm surrounded by a lot of couples and I'm paying attention to, like, I see from a higher perspective now after going through what I went through and, dealing with what I dealt with within my marriage. I see things from a higher perspective. And I see individuals that have been together for 40 plus years, 30 plus years, right? And they're proud of that, but they have so much disconnect. They are very much unequally yoked, but the fact that they've been together for so long, they overlook the disconnect. They overlook the unequally yoked aspect. And then I'm surrounded by some young couples who are still figuring things out, but they see the signs. They see that they're very much unequally yoked, but yet they're still trying to make it work without understanding each other. It's very important that we gain some understanding and decide what you're willing to put forth work in, right? to come from stability and build a relationship with somebody who's from struggle, it's challenging. You have your work cut out for yourself. You have your it's very hard. It's very hard. And if you're not willing to put forth the work and understanding, then it's time for you to make some hard decisions. Same thing with professionally. I had to cut cords with a lot of brands because it wasn't aligned. Their morals and values didn't align with my vision. The bag was good for sure, right? But it's not all about that. If I'm wanting to build strong, healthy partnerships, I have to stand firm on my values and beliefs. I have to stand firm on my foundation and the roots that I'm building. It's imperative, it's vital. A lot of us is not doing that. We're compromising our roots. We're compromising our values, beliefs, and our ethics, for a bag, for partnership, to have a man or to have a woman, to keep it a G, to keep it a buck. And it's time that we start to do some reevaluation of oneself before we start to engage with others. That's what we're missing. Because another aspect of coming from different backgrounds or coming from different foundations, you come from a foundation, but then the older you get, the more that you experience, you start to see if this foundation really fits who you truly are. That's another thing. And a lot of us is not taking that time to dive into self identity before we engage with our social development. It's very important, especially, it's one thing to have friends, it's one thing to have people that you talk to, you know what I mean? But on a serious tip, if you are considering this person to be the one you want to spend the rest of your life with, if you're considering this person to be the one that you are wanting to take the next step to be committed and all of that good stuff, find out who you are first. Okay? Don't find out who you are through the relationship, because you become someone within a relationship to keep the relationship. That's not who you are. Because if that relationship wasn't there, who would you really be? If you wasn't really with that person, who would you really be? It's very important to find out who you are before you take next level commitments with people. We're missing that step. And this is why we have such a fail rate. This is why we having so much disconnect. This is why we having so much challenge in connections. This is why we have trust issues. Clock it. Clock it. This is why we have trust issues. This is why we have um, failed friendships. This is why we fall out with friendships. This is why we fall out in relationships, right? This is why our business partnerships don't work out. Self identity is imperative before you navigate social development. You got to know who you are to understand who you want to be around. I'm just keep it a buck, not who you desire to be materialistically, right? Not who you are desiring to, who you envision yourself to be on paper, but within your spirit, within your soul, within your heart. Who are you, right? One of the things that I came to understand, and one of the things I came to become clear on, was whether you come from stability or whether you come from struggle, whether you come from middle class, whether you come from low class, it doesn't matter the foundation. It matters of what you're planting right now. So if you got self awareness, self reflection, accountability, and responsibility, then we can produce something, right? Whether it's a friendship, whether it's a partnership, we can produce it. We can formulate something healthy and whole. We can really come together and do something amazing in this world. But if you are not planting these seeds, there's no need for us to be around, because then you don't have the understanding, then you don't have the compassion, then you don't have the clarity that you need in order to be the best version of yourself. And I'm at that space to be the best version of myself. I'm every day I'm improving, every day I'm growing. And if you don't have that urgency or that desire, then what are we doing? If you can't be vulnerable in conversations, if you can't dive deep in conversations, right? If you can't get in depth and really navigate different aspects, then I'm not a surface person. So I know who I am. I'm a person of depth. I'm a person of understanding. I'm a person of realist. And that is important. I'm a person of awareness, not just like I have mental awareness, I have emotional awareness, I have spiritual awareness, but also I have physical awareness, I have social awareness. Okay. I have financial awareness. Like I dive into personal growth. Personal development is literally second nature for me. I transform on a regular. So if you're afraid of change, then we can't, right? If you're a person who has to stay the same for 10, 15 years, we don't align. So I wouldn't even entertain anything with you. A lot of us is compromising who we are to be with people. And that's because we're afraid to be alone. And that's a different conversation. I can't wait to dive with y'all. But this was something I just had to release. The Holy Spirit kept nudging me. I couldn't sleep last night because this is something he said. This is a message that needs to be said. This is a message that needs to be spoken because it's not just about stability and security, it's also about spirituality, right? Aligning yourself with individuals who operate through spirit versus operate through flesh. Baby, you see a big difference. If you operate through your spirit, but you are in a relationship with somebody who operates through your flesh, what do you have in common? You're literally on 85 and in 285. They'll come across each other, but they're going two different directions. Keep it above, right? It's like you gotta pay attention and actually act on what you see. Don't overlook it. Act on what you see. It's important. Social development. This is social development. Okay. Building healthy and whole connections is what I'm about. Building a healthier whole you is what I'm about. Being a personal development coach, transformational life coach. This is what I do. So if you are in this space of engaging with individuals that does not align and engaging with individuals that don't resonate with your true and highest self, you're always going to have a disconnect internally. Always, always. You have to start being selective. Pay attention. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for diving in. I appreciate all y'all for diving in. Riley, I appreciate y'all. Eugene, I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Tyraya. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for diving in. I appreciate y'all. Be a blessing, y'all, unto others, but know that you're blessed too. Bye.